Watch this.
I'm going to use my son's whiteboard to help you guys understand Israel a little bit better. Because today, a lot of people will say, we have to support Israel. We have to protect Israel. We have to pray for Israel, that Israel be blessed. Bless Israel. But I'm like, how do you determine what is Israel and who is Israel? Just because someone puts a name on a building? For example, if a friend of mine converted to Judaism, does he suddenly become Israel? No, Mike, that's foolish. Well, do you mean the 12 tribes? Because people don't know their tribe lineage. Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, is not from the 12 tribes. He is of European descent. This is what's known as an Ashkenazi Jew. So let's just get Barney style with it and talk about what is Israel. In the beginning, you get Adam. Adam is given Eve. From them, you get Cain and Abel. Abel was the promised seed because Eve was promised that her seed would restore the fall of sin. Cain kills Abel. Eve has another child, the new promised seed, Seth. Eventually, this leads us to Noah, still the promised seed. Now, Noah is chosen to survive the wrath of God, him and his children. Noah survives the flood with his family. Genesis 10 lays out this lineage that would end up being the lineage of the world, and he has a promised seed, Shem. This is actually where you get the term Semitic. Shem's people are the Shemites, which becomes Semites. And so the promised seed of God goes through the Shemites. Now from here, the next one is Abraham, still in the lineage of the promised seed. This is where God begins to start establishing an entire group, not just one seed. So through Abraham, all will be blessed. And he will make of Abraham a nation. And God made promises to Abraham for that nation. This nation would be the nation of the seed. So a promised nation to the seed of Abraham. Abraham has a child, Isaac. Isaac has a child, Jacob. Promised seed, promised seed, promised seed. Jacob is renamed Israel. And from his lineage, all the tribes of Israel. This is where we get all the tribes of Israel throughout the Old Testament. Now, although these 12 tribes will be blessed by this promise, the promise was not to the 12 tribes. The promise was to the seed of Abraham. That's Galatians chapter 2 and 3. So who is the promised seed that will go from Jacob going forward? It is Judah. And out of the tribe of Judah will bring forth the Messiah. And through a lot of history that I'm not about to go through on the whiteboard, we get to King David again in the lineage of the promised seed. A promise is also given to David for his seed that he will have the throne forever. The seed of Abraham is promised a nation. The seed of David is promised an eternal throne. We inevitably get the Lord Jesus. Now, in this very short and simple summarized of our biblical timeline, for some reason, people think at this point, there's a branch off. Christianity breaks off. Thus, we have the Jews and Christianity. And so in time, people say, how do we feel about this line still? It is that line, guys. Like, we should respect that line, love that line, and bless that line, right? But the promised seed line continues from Jesus. It is the Jews who rejected Jesus that are splitting off. This is what the letter of Hebrews lays out in detail. This is what Jesus warns about constantly. The promises were for the promised seed, who is Jesus. When God is protecting Israel, he is protecting his seed so it will come and bring salvation to the world. When God says, touch not my anointed for Abraham's wife, he is protecting this lineage. When God says, bless Israel, he is protecting the lineage. Because as Jesus tells us in John chapter 4, it is through the Jews salvation comes. Now, all those that still share blood with these, they were created by God for a purpose, and they may live scattered in the world. But this thing, this Talmudic Judaism that doesn't have a temple, that doesn't worship God the same way that they did in the Old Testament, that doesn't follow those traditions, they don't just become the Jews because they call themselves the Jews. Now, this bloodline is absolutely still in the world today, but people don't know where it is. Most people that claim to be Jews can't trace their bloodline back to the 12 tribes. That's not me taking from them being Jews. What I'm saying is you might be religiously a Jew, but you're not fully aware if you are bloodline a Jew. And does God have plans for those that still share that blood? We see it in Revelation. He will gather them, 12,000 from each tribe. Now, I know you might be saying, Mike, is this replacement theology? Because you hear that term. No. The idea that Jesus branches off and Christianity becomes a new line, and then that becomes God's favorite line, that's replacement theology. This is olive tree theology. God planted the olive tree right here, and the seed was born right here. And now through him, all can come to God. This is why there is no longer Jew nor Gentile. God's promises were not to the nation of Israel. They were to the seed of Abraham. God's promises to David were not to people who call themselves Jew. It was to the seed of David. So all the promises of God and all the reasons why people of God should be blessed and should be respected is for him. Everything points to him. The promises were to Abraham and to his offspring, not offsprings, his offspring. And sometimes it can seem that people forget why Israel was guarded, why Israel was blessed, why Israel was protected. It was because of that seed coming and God making sure that that seed came. But you telling me that I have to blindly support people because they have the title Israel that is given to them by man and not by God, why? I restate my question earlier. If I suddenly said I'm converting to Judaism and therefore I am a Jew, do you suddenly treat me differently? Do I suddenly become Israel? Because that's about as much information as you have when you're just looking at a screen and saying, oh, those people there, that's Israel. This is not anti-Israel as far as the nation goes. Those are people made in the image of God. And I am not saying that if they're not truly the bloodline of the 12 tribes that they suddenly lose respect or value. But what I am saying is that that doesn't elevate them. God bless and go in peace.